left on the corner and goes up and just drives in that corner so hard. He must be driving in the corner 3-4 car lengths further than the 6-car Mark Martin.
And let's go to Jerry Punch with a report on the Rusty Wallace car.
For the past few laps, we've seen Rusty riding in the draft behind Mark Martin. One of the reasons, other than the fact that Mark was awfully strong, was to conserve some fuel. Now, Rusty and Ernie Irvin get about the same gas mileage in both of their cars, and they both will probably need at least 2 stops, maybe 2 stops and a splash of fuel. But they saw the 4-car coming in a hurry, so Rusty decided to go ahead and pass Mark Martin and try to pull away, because they are very concerned not only about Mark, but also about Ernie Irvin. He's extremely strong.
Ernie Irvin pulls to the inside off turn 3 and challenges Mark Martin for second position. Let's see how things shake out as they head toward turn number 1. Ernie Irvin goes to second, and Mark Martin has fallen from first to third in the last 3 laps.
Well, certainly the 4-car is strong. They have analyzed that part of it right.
So Ernie Irvin now picks up second position over Mark Martin, while Rusty Wallace continues to lead this Miller Genuine Draft 500. We'll be back right after this. This is Rusty's first lead today, Kenny. Okay.
Okay, Neil, thanks.
That was good.
Well said.
Predicting that he would pass on his turn.
Now the front 2 now, they'll line up 3-way.
Temperature hasn't changed.
Nope.
That's surprising. That's how everybody knows.
Draft win. Meanwhile.
Oh, yeah.
A few laps ago, under caution, we took a look at this thermometer that's in Jeff Bodine's car and saw it reading 115 degrees and thought maybe as we got into competition, when back to green, that the temperature would increase, but it's still right around the 115 mark.
But let's look where that's mounted. That's up, what, near the rear window, and a little bit high in the car. The one car, Rick Mast, having problems again. But that...
And Earnhardt's on pit road with a right rear tire flatter, looks like.
So lots of problems here for several drivers right now. But anyway, that temperature on the as they change the tires on Earnhardt's car, if it were down where the driver is sitting, would be considerably higher.
Right side tires going on the number 3 GM Goodrich Chevrolet, but the crew is not in any hurry to do so.
And Rick Mast is taking his car into the garage area once again. He was in there for a little while, but made some repairs, sent him back out. But looks like this one might be fine for him.
Earnhardt has won another lap down because the leaders went by while he was in there changing that right rear tire that he saw flat.
So he's now 2 laps down as Rusty Wallace continues to lead Ernie Irvin and Mark Martin.
Line is 4th. In 5th place is Bill Lowe, starting ball in 6th. 7th is Hutch Strickland. In 8th place, Brett Ledine. Dale Jarrett is 9th, and Joe Ruttman now in 10th.
And Mark Martin, as we indicated, has fallen from 1st to 3rd in the last few laps. John, could there be a handling problem on that car?
Bob, you're exactly right. There is a handling problem. The car has gotten just a little bit loose, so they've told him to kind of settle down, just run his pace. If the race goes green the rest of the way, their strategy is they've only got to beat the 11 car, because the 2 and the 4 car, by their calculations, will have to come in twice and a splash of fuel. But on the other hand, the 6 car and the 11 car of Jeff Bodine can make it on 2 stops. Now, that's on their figuring based on running green the rest of the way, and the way this race has gone, I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
Well, it certainly wasn't that way in the first half. does bring up some very interesting strategy that could play out in the closing stages of this event.
I talked about the racetrack and what a compromise it is in setting the car up. The 4-car, Ernie Irvin, there's Rusty Wallace as we see a headshot of him up in the right-hand corner. But Ernie Irvin's car, as good as Rusty Wallace is up in turn 3, is a little bit better. But he's not as good as Rusty down in 1 and 2.
It's next to impossible to get a car set up on this racetrack, Benny, to where it works good in all corners. You're going to have to compromise somewhere because of the difference in the banking.
And you see Ernie is falling back right in front of Martin.
So while this battle up front continues, every person out there has a favorite race. And for those of you who are J.D. McDuffie fans, there he is. He's running in 27th position, about 21 laps behind. But you got to give this guy an equal effort and for perseverance.
I'll tell you, his car looks good, so he has dodged most of the wrecks here today. So it's good to see J.D. in a race. He's had some trouble making some races from Sanford, North Carolina, but he started 40th, so he has picked up 13 positions so far and still out there circling this racetrack.
Guy comes to just about every Winston Cup race and gives it everything he's got every time he shows up at the track. Martin falls a little bit further behind in 3rd position as Ernie Irvin is locked into the back bumper of Rusty Wallace. And the 17 car of Darrell Waltrip comes back on the racetrack as Ernie Irvin makes a bid for the lead and gets it in turn 1. Irvin goes back to the front, passing Rusty Wallace.
We saw Ernie just a couple of laps ago. Looked like the car had lost the handle a little bit. Backing up to Mark Martin. Now has taken the lead from Rusty Wallace. And boy, there's a record.
I'm telling you, this isn't modified racing. This is Winston Cup racing. But that car of Darrell Waltrip looks like it has been through a tornado. He's 49 laps down. But Darrell Waltrip goes back out onto the racetrack.
Talked about at the top of the show about momentum. Rusty Wallace could use a good run today because he started out with a bang, but the last, 5 or 6 weeks has been struggling around the racetrack.
Yeah, they need some momentum, no question about it. They did win Bristol earlier in the year and had some awfully good runs at some other tracks, but not the way that the form that he showed when he won the championship back in 1989.
Well, Rusty's most recent decent finish was a 3rd, of course, on the road course at Sonoma. But he had engine problems here in June and finished 31st. He was 17th at Michigan and he was 12th at Daytona. But now Rusty goes inside of Ernie and takes the lead back.
What happened was Ernie ran upon J.D. McDuffie in the tunnel corner, and he had to back off the gas. He didn't want to pull on the outside because we've seen what happens when you get out there. And look at Ernie. Made it out of shape trying to get underneath Rusty Wallace.
Looked like he was at dirt track coming off that corner where the rear end really hung out, and Mark Martin, because of that, closed right in.
Yep, allowed him to catch right up.
So the first 3 continue to run nose to tail. It's Wallace and Irvin and Martin at the Miller Genuine Draft 500. Back in a moment. Okay.
Bill Elliott's about to catch Jeff Bodine.
Okay.
Saw Harry again earlier on losing down the end of the straightaway, the thing wouldn't run. It had a broken valve spring again. And I wonder just what in the world.
Who's that?
Perry Ginn.
Here are the top 10 with 71 laps to go. It's Ernie Irvin leading Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, Jeff Bodine is 4th, and Bill Elliott 5th. In the second 5, Sterling Marlin 6th, and Brett Bodine, Dale Jarrett, Hut Strickland, and here is another lead change. These guys have been going at it side by side and wheel to wheel for the last several laps, and now, well, I was going to say Rusty Wallace is going to go back on top. Yep, he is.
You're right. Meanwhile, Mark Martin is just sitting back there and saying, you guys are playing right into my hands. Jerry Punch reported that, you know, those fellas have to make 2 pit stops. 3, and Mark Martin only 2. Meanwhile, they're using up gasoline so that splash of gas becomes a half a can.
And the difference maybe between winning and losing.
Exactly. You know, I just thought of something. Look, here comes Ernie back again on the inside of Rusty Wallace.
Well, if nothing else, it's entertaining the fans, and I hope those of you watching at home, because this is good racing. They're just going back and forth with the lead.
Now Rusty's going to try it on the inside again as Ernie comes off, gets the car.
You know, you got to ask yourself, why are they doing this?
It's their nature.
That's exactly right.
But if you're a race driver, you want to lead, don't you?
You want to try to run for the lead. And they're having fun. Sometimes you get a little bit monotonous if you're just out there running around, you know, and don't change positions and lead a race for a long time. And that's what you want to do. But when they're changing around like this, it makes it more fun.
Now, the last time, Ernie Irvin was able to get through the tunnel corner better than Rusty and pull up on the inside. Now, let's see if that same thing happens again. Doesn't appear, though. Doesn't appear it's going to work this time.
Yep.
Rusty moves over, kind of blocks that spot because he knows that he's been getting off this corner better than Ernie. Ernie's been getting loose off this corner just in the last couple of laps.
Mark Martin just continues to sit there and watch him dice around up in front of him. And look back here. Here's the 4th place car of Jeff Bodine, but look right on his back bumper when he comes in there. Bill Elliott's doing such a good job of drafting that
you can hardly see it.
Hard to see him, but he has caught Jeff Bodine. He was about 3 or 4 seconds behind Bodine, but he has run him down now. That's 4th and 5th we're seeing on the screen.
It's Rusty leading Ernie, and we understand that Ernie may be thinking about pitting this time around.
He's falling back behind Rusty Wallace. Either he's going to make a pit stop or he did get caught in some traffic.
Well, I don't know. He's only run about 29 laps, fellas, since he was in the pits. He should get better gas mileage than that.
And then he's not coming in.
There's Alan Kowicki, our pole sitter. But again, we can see the damage to the left front of Kowicki's car where he ran in the side of the Western Auto Chevrolet when Darrell Waltrip ran in the inside guardrail, and that's no place to go.
And that puts Allen a lap down, so now 15 cars remain on the lead lap.
Allen came out of the pits very late. He made a series of pit stops during the last caution and came out about a half a lap behind the leaders, and so they've just gradually whittled away at that and run him down and put him a lap down. So now there are only 15 cars on the lead lap.
I understand that the fuel light came on in Ernie's car, thus creating the cause for concern, and they are ready if Ernie chooses to come in this time around, and we believe he's going to.
Well, if the light, now they may have a short in the light. They may now watch the fuel pressure gauge and just wait until the gauge stood the. Nope, he's coming in.
Yep. Ernie Irvin relinquishes second position and brings the Kodak Film Chevrolet into the pits, and John Kernan is right there.
Getting about 38, 39 laps on a tank of fuel, so he is a few laps earlier than he should be, about 6 or 7 laps earlier. They were going to try and stretch it to 142 so they'd only have to make one more stop, but he radioed in a lap ago and said he had to come in. The light had come on, apparently. They will go to work on the right side of the car. A 4-tire change, no chassis adjustment. They put in 1 can of Unical Racing gasoline. The right's going on. Just a small problem on the right side on the right front tire. Now they'll swing around to the left side of the car. Scuff tire. tires, it looks like, going on the Kodak Chevrolet. Irvin sitting in the car waiting to tank his fuel. 22 flat. Rusty Wallace coming out of turn 3.
Irvin out of the pits. Rusty coming down the straightaway at full tilt.
But he should be able to get back out. Yeah, he's going to be okay. He'll stay in the lead lap by a pretty good margin. But according to some calculations here, he only went about 78.5 miles on that tank of fuel.
Well, you remember the race we did at Bristol, and we had an in-car camera in the Kodak film Chevrolet, and there was a light on the dash that kept flashing all the time. If you fans remember that and remember that light flashing, I had some people ask me what that was. So I called Tony Glover and said, as we were watching Rusty Wallace, I asked him what that light was, and it was a fuel pressure indicator. And he said, I don't know why that it shorted out or made that mistake and flashed all day. And I just wondered if, it may be doing the same thing, but I'm sure they do have a pressure gauge, and evidently the pressure dropped is why Ernie did come in.
Rusty Wallace leads, and we get down to Jerry Punch, who's with the owner of this racetrack, Dr. Joe Mattioli. And Jerry, asked him about his directing traffic out there at 8:15 this morning out in the tunnel turn.
Well, actually, Bob, Dr. Mattioli did direct traffic this morning. I'm with his son, Joey Mattioli, who is the president of the Speedway. It's a family organization. Dad was directing traffic this morning. You've been running around this morning directing the pre-race with a sandwich in one hand and a radio in the other. You guys have to be awfully proud of this place. Tremendous renovations over the past few years. New lounge for the drivers, newly repaved pit roads. But these guys are trying to knock the walls down here on you, trying to give you a lot of work to do.
I'll tell you, they sure are, but as long as the walls are holding and the drivers are safe, it's all worth it. Pocono, really, we're just a big short track. It's like a half-mile dirt track that just happens to be 2.5 miles long. We started off as a short track back in '68, and hopefully we haven't forgot where we came from. And every fan out here is important to us, and hopefully we make them feel at home when they come here.
Now, I understand you sold every ticket for today's race, and they were lined up getting in here this morning. Certainly a tribute to the work that your crew, you and Bob Plevin and all the folks here have done.
Well, I'll tell you, the tribute really is to this competition out here. If you remember last race we had up here, we had 20 drivers on the lead lap with the last lap to go. Any one of 20 drivers could have won. What NASCAR's done, the competition, when you can get 42 lead changes a race, the fans are going to come. And we just want to give them the best possible environment we can so they can really enjoy themselves here.
Now, in case you don't recognize Joey Mattioli, he was the guy with the pie in his face on Buffet Benny. I guess Benny surprised you a little bit there.
But he sure did. I'll tell you what, though, we've got a Buffet Benny plan. We're going to have a Buffet Benny diet plan. And Benny's next race, we're going to have a contest to see if he can make it 2.5 miles around the racetrack. Run it.
Well, what we're going to do this year, it's Buffet Benny. Next year, we're going to have what they call Benny Side. We're going to have Benny's aerobics, and every week he'll go work out with somebody. Maybe we'll have him work out with you.
I heard he has great legs.
Well, that's what I hear, but you can't tell. How about it, BP? How are the legs?
I don't know why these guys are making all these plans for me.
I can't wait to see you run around this racetrack, or even walk around it, or even drive around in the car at your age. Rusty Wallace leads here at Pocono. Nice to have you with us. Stay with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
They were going to wait 4 laps, but if he's slower this lap, they may bring him in next time by. And he's just getting slower and slower, and those tires are gone.
Yeah, I see him getting sideways.
Yeah.
About 10. Miller Genuine Draft 500 from Pocono International Raceway in Pennsylvania. ESPN's live Speed World coverage. Rusty Wallace is leading but he needs a pit stop and may be getting one very, very soon. What are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing at producer.
The thought of you running around this racetrack.
Yeah, right. That is comical.
Here's Rusty coming in. Jerry Punch is right there.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm still chuckling a little bit myself. I think it'll be quite a show. We should pack the house for that one. But right now, it's Rusty Wallace's pit time. Now, actually, he was not going to pit for 2 more laps, but he has slowed so much on the racetrack the tires are worn out. We'll watch on the crew cam here. Todd Barrett, the tire carrier, as he dances around the right rear of the car. It'll be pretty much routine stop. All 4 tires clean the windshield. And the good news for the Miller Genuine Draft crew that come to the left side is they will have to make only 1 more stop. If they can get this past lap 163, that's their window. Left side lug nuts are on. They are pounding on the hood, pushing, and the car is away in 21.7 seconds. A good view from the crew cam and a good pit stop by the Miller Genuine Draft crew.
And others are on pit road also. Bill Elliott pulls out. Hut Strickland is getting left side tires, and now the crew moves to the right side. And here comes Chad Little down pit road in the 19 car, that red and white machine. And Bill Elliott brings the Coors Light Ford back onto the racetrack.
Chad Little had made the greatest advance so far today. He started 33rd and was running 13th before this last pit stop.
And the lead now goes to Mark Martin in the Folgers Ford.
Mark Martin's car not getting out of shape like Rusty's was. Rusty was really getting loose the further he went on those tires. That's one reason that he did stop, as Jerry Punch made a comment a moment ago from the pits.
Of course, Mark was sitting back there running in a smooth line while Rusty and Ernie Irvin were dicing it up there in front of him and abusing those tires a little bit.
That's a very good point, Ned.
Brett Bodine comes in for a pit stop. He has been among the top 5 for the last 50 laps or so. The Quaker State Buick team has the car rolling again. Team owner Kenny Bernstein competing in drag racing competition this weekend.
And Mark Martin now coming into the pits, and John Kernan will be there.
We're awaiting the arrival of Mark Martin on pit road. He is all the way down towards turn 1, toward the exit of pit road. He is in pit stall number 1, and they are waiting on him. This is their planned window. They will need only 1 more stop with about 18 laps to go. It will be a 4-tire change for the Folgers crew. Smoke boiling off the right front brake. They will also put in a round and a half of wedge. They want to tighten the car up. Remember, we had told you earlier that the car had loosened itself up and was getting difficult to drive, so they will tighten it up, put on 4 new tires, 2 cans of fuel. Now their strategy is on their final pit stop is to come in with about 18 laps remaining and take on right side tires only.
And we will see how that strategy plays out as Mark Martin works back up to speed.
Jeff Bodine has taken over the lead in the Budweiser Ford, and he's waving to somebody. Apparently he's about to head into the pits. He might be low in fuel. As a matter of fact, he is coming off of turn 3 into the pits in the area where Jerry Punch is.
Indeed, Ned, scheduled pit stop, but they will have to come in for 1 more stop. They can't quite make it the rest of the way, so the Budweiser crew will go to work on the defending champion of this race a year ago. 3 wins in 1990. They have yet to go to victory lane here in 91. Good pit stop thus far. Right side tires are on the car. They clean the windshield. Left side lug nuts are off. And Tim Brewer, Mike Hill, and the rest of this Budweiser crew now scamper to the left side. They are pounding down on that rear spoiler of the car a little bit too tight. They want to give him as much speed as possible here in the late lap. Off the jacks, he is down and away. Good pit stop for the Budweiser team.
Through the gears, Jeff Bodine goes to get back up to speed. So nice to see those drivers wearing the full face helmets.
Dale Garrett has moved into second behind Bodine. He also came in the pit same lap as Bodine, and he goes back out. So just about all of the front runners now, I believe, have made pit stops.
This is down the Long Pond straightaway. Inside of the 11 Budweiser Ford, driven by Jeff Bodine.
Our Big A Auto Parts on-track interval this time takes a look at the difference between Rusty Wallace on old tires and Ernie Irvin on new tires. And here you can see that it was a full second on lap 136. Not quite that bad on 37, but there is the way that you close in when you've got those good tires on.
The
really is unbelievable how much of an advantage Ernie has on Rusty Wallace and Mark Martin. Remember, when they start this series of pit stops started, they were running right together. Now Ernie is 3 or 4 seconds ahead of Rusty Wallace, and who is about 2 seconds behind in front of Mark Martin, because he stopped early and was able to get those new tires on early. But now Rusty and Mark ought to start closing in on the 4 car.
Yep.
Because I mentioned that all the front runners had stopped. Harry Gant has not made a pit stop yet, so he has moved back in the top 5. But that's sort of bad news, the fact that he is in 4th place now and hasn't made a pit stop when he was up there in 5th place and running with the leaders not too long ago. But again, in case someone just joined us, he apparently has lost a cylinder.
Ernie Irvin leads now after these pit stops. And with 55 more laps to go, Ernie leads this race at Pocono International. My name is Bobby. Bob, yeah. Oh, well, I know who you mean. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah. Everybody standing up for our appointment. We are back at Pocono, and there is the story of Harry Gant as he takes the Skull Bandit behind the pit wall. Ned, he came in and just took a look and decided to put it behind the wall?
Well, you know, I mentioned that he had not made a pit stop, but as he came off the track on pit road, it looked like there was a little smoke coming from the car. He did go to his pits, and then he backed up, and you can see he's headed into the garage area, apparently through for the day.
Harry Gant, 7th in point standings, goes into the garage. John, what was the problem?
A very disappointing day. First of all, as you documented, they did break a valve spring, but when he came in, you saw this. Well, we could see the smoke. We were in commercial break, smoke boiling off the right front. He broke the strut on the right front, so they're going to have to call it a day, take it back to the garage area, possibly try and fix it and get him back out, but I don't know if they will go to all that trouble.
Gant was in 7th place in the Winston Cup point standings coming into this race, has won victory to his credit so far this year.
So Ernie Irvin is the leader of the race there in car number 4. Behind him is the 71 car of Dave Marcus. Now, he has just gone a lap down. He's in 14th position.
So that leaves 13 drivers on the lead lap. That's a pretty good long run here of green flag racing.
And there comes the 2nd place car, Rusty Wallace, the black and gold car.
Yeah, he has definitely closed in on Ernie from the distance he was after they had made their pit stops.
Now you check for your favorite driver here. There goes Jeff Bodine coming through the frame. And look at Rusty. He is passing the 71 car. And there's the 17 of Darrell Waltrip. Now, Darrell is nursing a very badly wounded car around the racetrack after being involved in that crash here on the main straightaway several laps ago. And, of course, added to that was that terrible, terrible crash that he had at Daytona 2 weeks ago during the running of the Pepsi 400. He's had terrible luck at Daytona. Darrell, do you ever want to run at that racetrack again?
You know, I've heard one quote that makes a lot of sense to me is adversity will make you better if it doesn't kill you. And so you know, it's a tough deal for me to stand here 44 years old and with all I've got going for me, my wife, my family, my daughter, and say something like that. But I don't understand what's happened to me at Daytona. I've been going there for all these years. I've had all kind of problems there. I've been hurt there more, but no other racetrack I've ever been to where have I been hurt except Daytona. And I don't know why. And I really am going to give out a lot of thought before I go back there in February. But yes, I'll be back there in 1992 and hopefully beyond. And I'll shake that monkey off my back.
And that's why his Daytona 500 win a couple of years ago was so important to him, because he has had just incredibly terrible luck at Daytona. Jerry?
Bob, you know, surprisingly, Darrell Waltrip was essentially uninjured in that violent multi-flip there down the back straightaway. In fact, Joe Ruttman was hurt worse than Darrell Waltrip. Joe Ruttman hurt his back when his car launched in the air and he came down. The jar was so abrupt it hurt his back. Now, Joe, being the typical stubborn race driver, and his crew chief and car owner came to me this week and said, we can't get him to go to the doctor. He's walking around with a little brace in the lower part of his back. He can barely bend over, and he can't turn from side to side, yet he'll get in the race car and give it 110%. But Ruttman has really been nursing a very, very sore back, some pulled muscles in the lower back with that accident, while Darrell Waltrip, who took the brunt of those flips there, walked away.
Unbelievable that Darrell could come out of that unscathed, and Joe Ruttman, who continued around the racetrack, could suffer most of the injuries. As a matter of fact, you know that Darrell's crash there at Daytona, that's his only DNF during the 91 season so far.
You know, while you were talking about Darrell, I started to say that Michael had brought his car back out for just a little bit, but it didn't stay too long.
They apparently would not let him stay out there because of the exposed fuel cell that NASCAR determined to be just a little bit over the safety requirement, or under the safety requirement, and so Michael Waltrip was brought back in. The 2 in the 19 car, there's Rusty Wallace in second position. And the 19 car of Chad Little. Now, it too has gone a lap down, of course, running in 12th position. Chad Little with the new crew chief beginning at this race, Harry Hyde, who recently left the Stavola brothers and has come over to this team for at least the rest of this year and maybe for all of 1992.
There's our third place runner, Mark Martin, the Folgers Ford, number 6. As he goes by the start-finish line right now. Right behind Mark Martin would be Davey Allison, I believe, just a moment ago. There goes Davey. He's been in a crash, has a new nose put on the car.
He's a lap down, shown in 12th position. His troubles began right in the beginning of the race, and they continued at least through the first half, but things have kind of settled down for Davey now. But there you can see that new nose on the car. Here's Rick Wilson in car 8.
Snickers Buick, he also backed in the wall up in the tunnel corner early on in the race, but still he came in, they made some repairs. He has been running the entire day.
13 laps down in 25th position, Rick Wilson.
There's Greg Sachs, the Canalo Insurance Oldsmobile. Greg got this ride a couple of months ago.
He's in 19th position, and he is 2 laps down.
And there's the Big Apple Market Chevrolet of Dave Marcus.
He's 14th on the grid.
Just went a lap down not too long ago.
And we can see right behind Marcus is Bill Elliott in the Coors Light Ford Thunderbird.
That's your 4th place car right there, Bill Elliott, winner at Daytona.
And the 5th place car on his back bumper is Jeff Bodine.
Those 2 Deere Company cars have been running pretty close together for the last 30 or 40 laps.
It's like there's a crack in the windshield there on Jeff's car to the right.
That's not really a cause for alarm. That's not going to cause any problems, but you're right, it is broken.
And behind Jeff Bodine in car number 11, a little bit of racetrack, and the next car is the 55 of Ted Musgrave. As Ned mentioned, he's got a brand new sponsor on that car, Jasper Engines.
And they're from your home state, Jasper, Indiana.
You betcha.
There's Irv Hare, the High Point Betting Oldsmobile.
He was on ESPN last last Sunday afternoon in the Trans Am race that Dr. Punch called for us from the streets of Des Moines, Iowa. Irv running in 20th position this afternoon in this Winston Cup event. Continuing to check upon those still out there. 94, Terry Labonte. He has a new crew chief this week.
Dewey Livengood, the engine man, has assumed the crew chief role on the Sunoco Oldsmobile. And there's Ricky Rudd, who is currently second in the Winston Cup point standings. He's now 21st.
Look at the damage on the left side of this car as it goes by.
Incidentally, Terry Labonte is shown in 16th position. He is still 1 lap down.
Ricky Rudd is 2 laps down.
The 22 car of Sterling Marlin. Look at the hubs on this car, the wheels.
And when he made his last pit stop, it looked like they put on Michael Waltrip's tires and wheels.
I like those yellow wheels on that
They
blue
look
car.
good with that car, don't they? He's in 6th position on the lead lap, Sterling Marlin. And also on the lead lap, 5 runs, still in the top 10 is Dale Jarrett, car number 21, the Citgo Ford that we ride with.
In fact, he's been running Sterling down the last 8 or 10 laps. Once they made their pit stop, Sterling beat him out pretty good and cut Strickland right behind him. That is the 6th, 7th, and 8th position we're seeing there.
Festus Buick owned by Bobby Allison, driven by Hut Strickland in 8th position.
If you just joined us at home and you thought you saw Dale Jarrett shift gears and you said, what is he doing? You're right. He was shifting gears. He's running an overdrive trap. And look, here Jeff Bodine is trying to pass Bill Elliott. He's on the inside, has the position.
Going for 4th place, Jeff Bodine inside off the 4th corner. They're wheel to wheel as they come down and cross the stripe.
Well, that would have been almost a photo finish if that had been the last lap.
Say that again. They were dead even.
And with all the problems Davey Allison has had today, he's running pretty doggone good.
Yeah, he is.
He's hanging right behind these 2 cars.
He's a lap down now, but he's being shown in 13th position.
You know, when we came on the air, we said there's very little chance of rain. Well,
there's a chance. Pretty good chance, it looks like.
Yeah.
It's starting to darken up.
What happens, it just gets so hot and humid, and the atmosphere begins to boil, and that's exactly what's going on as the skies begin to darken, and there is lightning not too far away from the racetrack. So the rain that we had last month when we were here may revisit us, although we are still 43 laps. That calculator, I wish the batteries were better on that thing. We have 44 more laps to go before the end of this race. And look at this. Rusty Wallace has moved right in on the back bumper of Ernie Irvin. That's 1st and 2nd here in the Miller Genuine Draft 500. Back after these messages. Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Benny Parsons, John Kernan, and Dr. Jerry Punch back at Pocono International Raceway for the Miller Genuine Draft 500 Winston Cup race at number 16 out of 29. The leader on the left of your screen is Ernie Irvin, and behind him by a few car lengths in 2nd place is Rusty Wallace. And we will tell you that there is rain in the area, and perhaps that is causing some concern of Rusty Wallace, and that's why he's attempting to close in so rapidly on Ernie.
He was just 2 or 3 car lengths behind Ernie when he went to break, and during a commercial break, Ernie pulled away by a couple of car lengths, but now it looks like Rusty might be closing the gap ever so slightly.
Here's Rick Mast back out there again. He's been in the garage area a couple times, but they've made repairs, Bob Johnson and the crew, and got him back out there, still running laps and trying to get a few points.
Unofficially in 27th position, about 29 laps down. Third place belongs to Mark Martin.
You know, when did Ernie Irvin stop the last time? I wonder when he's going to have to stop. He's got to make 2 more pit stops or something.
Well, let's go to John Kernan and find out about Mark Martin.
Well, first let me answer about Ernie Irvin. He pitted on about lap 132, so he should be able to go about 10 more laps before having to come in. Now with Mark, we had talked earlier, I talked with Steve Mill earlier, and you said the plan was to come in with about 18 laps, take right side tires, and you figured the other guys would have to take on 4 tires. Is the strategy still that?
Well, I'm not sure what the 2 cars got to do. I know Ernie's going to have to stop around lap 170. He got to run 30 laps on tires, so he usually won't get 4. But the rain's kind of figuring in now, so I don't know what's going to happen. I know that we're going to pit on lap 182 and get right and just see what happens.
Have you tried to get a weather report from anyone, or do you get that technical down here during the race, or do you just look at the clouds sort of like we do?
Yeah, it just came all up on us real quick. You know, we're just looking and hoping it might fall in a window where the 2 has to pit and the 4 has to pit, and we don't. We just don't know, but for sure we got to pit with 18 to go.
Thank you, Steve Meal, crew chief for Mark Martin. Let's go to Jerry Punch. We're down here in the Rusty Wallace pit. Jimmy Maycar blocking his driver and telling Rusty the time as they go by. And Jimmy, the cloud cover coming over in a hurry, does that concern you a little bit?
Yeah, it sure does. It's going to play a little bit of a part on when we pit the car, you know, whether to stretch out our gas stop and worry about the rain, or whether to go ahead as planned and pit a little early.
The 4 cars lost some laps to you on their last stop. They're going to have to pit early again. And you guys can make it, what, on 1 more stop?
Yeah, 1 more stop. I think both of us can go on 1 more stop. So we're going to probably just wait and see what he does on his last stop and then do accordingly.
So Rusty Wallace has the advantage of possibly being able to stay out some extra laps. Let's check in the Ernie Irvin pit where John Kernan is standing with Tony Glover. Well, we understand that Ernie is going to have to pit in about 9 laps. Tony Glover talking over with some of the crew. Now, you have to pit in about 9 laps. How's the weather going to play in on that?
Well, I tell you, there's not a lot we can do about the weather. You know, they can go a little farther on fuel than we can. We got a little bit faster race car. If they beat us on account of the weather, they'll just have to have at it. Because, you know, we're going to run a race. We're going to pit when we have to and see what happens.
Now, you'll be able to make it the rest of the way, but what about your tires? They'll be able to have some fresher tires than you as you go down the stretch.
Well, I really don't think that'll matter, because right now Rusty's on about 10 lap fresher tires than we are. And, you know, I don't think he's got much for the Kodak Delco Remy Chevrolet right now.
Well, there you have it from crew chief Tony Glover. He still thinks they got a pretty good shot at winning this race, and they're due to pit in about 8 laps.
Good work by our 2 pit guys on bringing us up to date on the strategy that the top 3 cars are thinking about here in the closing laps of this race, and with rain bearing down.
Now, fellas, on the last run, Ernie Irvin only made 31 laps on that run. And now he has run 29 laps since he was in the last time. If he can go 8 more laps, maybe there was a problem with that light, Benny. And I'm sure that they calculated the fuel that they could have entered at that time and said, hey, he could have gone maybe a little further.
What happened was, and John Mike can check with those guys and just see how much gasoline they put in that car on 29 laps. If the light was flickering and they put in 15 gallons, they said, whoops, we've got a bad light.
It wasn't the fuel situation, it was the light that was wrong. Well, Ernie Irvin leads over Rusty Wallace at 163 laps completed of the Miller Genuine Draft 500 at Pocono International Raceway. Back with more after this. Around the world with over 1 million miles of auto racing coverage, ESPN Speed World brings you live coverage from Pocono International Raceway in northeastern Pennsylvania. The Miller Genuine Draft 500 Winston Cup race. 35 laps for this contest. Ernie Irvin leads Rusty Wallace. Ernie Irvin will be coming in for a pit stop. Probably around 3 more laps, we estimate. Meanwhile, dicing for position back of the leader is Hutz Strickland,
6th, 7th, and 8th. They have been changing around a little bit. And Hutt was running at 8th not too long ago, and I think he got the word that there were some clouds moving in, so he stepped up the pace a little bit, but he hasn't been able to shake it. When they come down the front straightaway, it's interesting. Hutt, he tries to break the draft, and so Marlin and Jarrett just follows him right over there, so not working that way, I guess. But they're headed into turn 3 right now.
Dale Jarrett pulls up right on the back of Sterling Marlin's car, so it looks like he's getting into that corner real well. Now they head down the straightaway we're talking about. There goes Hutt down in the second lane. Yep. There we see Dale shift into. Now Hutt goes back up in the top lane.
Dale has to make a real wide turn into 1. He said he just couldn't get the car to work unless he made that wide turn, that whatever it takes. In fact, I guess that's the best way to go through that turn.
It is the best way. Yes, it is. You need to go really wide because if you don't, in the middle of the corner, the car just has a terrible problem not wanting to turn. Hutz Strickland put a couple of callings on those guys that time.
Oh, kicked out a little bit that time.
And Dale is in 8th position, and there are 10 cars on the lead lap. Brett Bodine and Joe Rutland are behind Dale Jarrett. Now Dale takes a look to the inside of Sterling Marlin coming out of the 3rd turn.
Sterling has a little more power, though, down the straightaway.
And there goes Hutz Strickland with his snaking maneuver down the front straightaway.
He learned that from Neil Bonnet, watching him on TV here a number of years ago. Yeah. Neil got criticized by a reporter for doing that. Wasn't anybody on our crew. Yeah, Hutt began to pull away as Marlin and Jarrett sort of dice around back there. Sterling's car doesn't look like it's handling too good in the corners now. Tires, once the tires heat up, that way before he made his last pit stop, he got pretty squirrely in the turns.
You can see how dark it's become. Those lights on the scoreboard are very visible now, and it remains very hazy, but it's also very dark.
Hutz Strickland had a very, very good car earlier on. Was involved in a huge crash with several other cars, and the car lost a little something since that crash.
Yeah, it's not running as fast as it was then. It's still running good, but not nearly as good as it was.
There's Ernie Irvin trying to put another lap on Rick.
Ooh, looky here.
It comes for a pit stop. Ernie Irvin is making a pit stop. John Kernan will call this stop by the leader, Ernie Irvin, on lap 168.
Well, he's coming in about a lap earlier than what we had projected earlier, and talking with Tony Glover, the crew chief. They are waiting for Ernie to come down. We're anticipating a 4-tire change. It looks like they're going to go with 4 sticker tires on the car, possibly maybe just a lap. Ernie pulls into his pit stall. This will be his last stop of the day. And, you know, he didn't really seem to be giving up that much running on 10-lap older tires with Rusty Wallace. So Tony Glover may have something in the setup here that he can run just a little bit longer. They get the tires changed on the right side. They swing it around. Ernie throws the water bottle out of the cockpit. It will go to the left side. Lug nuts going on. The gas is full. And Ernie is a pretty good pit stop for the Kodak Chevrolet team.
Well, pitting that far down on pit road, you don't have to worry about his speed going out. He can go ahead and smash the gas and take off.
Long way down pit road, though. You're off turn 3, and you're headed way down toward turn 1.
Boy, don't you know he felt like it was forever and a day getting there.
Well, now this time, fellas, he went 36 laps on that tank. He only went 31 before, and he only has had about 31 or 32 laps to go, so he should be okay.
Yep.
I should say he only has that much to go to the end of the race, so he should have enough fuel to make it.
Rusty Wallace has picked up the lead in the race on the Ernie Irvin pit stop. There is Rusty, and in 7 more laps, we hear Rusty will be in for his final pit stop of the day.
And the question is what is Rusty going to do with 23 laps to go? He probably has no choice but put on 4 fresh tires. And Steve Mill reported if it doesn't rain at 182, he's going to put on 2 right side tires, and that 10 seconds might mean the difference in winning and losing.
Very good point. And we understand that there might be some moisture falling up in turn 3 now. That's where the heavy cloud is.
Oh, it'll be too bad if this race is halted here because of rain, because we have a really exciting finish set up here. Bill Elliott comes in for a pit stop, and it begins to rain harder in turn number 3. In fact, the fans you can see there begin to look toward the sky and hold out their hand as if to indicate that rain is coming from the dark cloud.
You know, Rusty Wallace, if it is raining up there, is screaming on the radio to Jimmy Makar, tell him to throw the caution, it's raining, hoping that they'll slow down and it comes a downpour, and the rain will never get started back.
Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, they are caught in the rock and a hard place here in the Rusty Wallace pit. They can run as long as possibly 177 laps on the green. They were planning on pitting on lap 176, but now with the rain and the caution flag now being shown to the field, it's really going to put them in a quandary. They may be able to squeeze a little extra mileage out of this car with the reduced speed under caution, but they're going to do some quick calculating here in the Miller Genuine Draft pits.
You can see Doyle Ford waving the yellow and pointing toward the sky so as to indicate that the reason for his yellow flag is rain.
But Rusty Wallace did not take the caution flag. He did not take the caution flag the last time, so he must outrun the 6 car Mark Martin back to the line, and so far that seems to be no problem.
And a report from John Kernan.
Mark Martin and his crew were planning to stay out until lap 182. They are not going to pit under this caution. I asked Steve Mill what their plan was. He pointed out to the racetrack. We're staying out on the racetrack regardless of what this rain does.
So Rusty Wallace now comes down and gets the yellow flag, slowing the pace of the event once again.
You see Bill Elliott on the inside just made that pit stop, so now he is a lap down.
That's a tough position to be in, because even if the race is restarted again, then they'll be able to make their pit stops under caution.
Bill falls to 9th position because of that pit stop that came just before the yellow because of rain. And it's beginning to rain pretty significantly here on the main straightaway. We see the drops of moisture coming onto our glass here in our broadcast booth, so this could be a rain delay of some duration. Rusty Wallace has hopes that it is the end of the day and the end of the race, because if that were the case, he would be declared the winner of the Miller Genuine Draft 500. Right back.
Davey Allison was leading.
Oh, look at that wind down turn one.
Man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, and that flag's going, that big old flag going straight out.
So much. Well, that's one consolation.
Yep.
We're back at Pocono, and because of the rain that's falling right now, the outside air temperature has fallen, and the inside air temperature inside the Jeff Bodine Budweiser 4 that we are watching right now is also dropped by about 5 degrees. And look how windy it's become in the past few minutes.
Tell you what, Doyle looks like that flag may blow right out of his hands. It is really windy out there.
Flags are standing straight out, and a lot of dust has been kicked up out in the turn number 1 area. Now, we indicated earlier how dry it is here. They haven't received a significant rainfall in quite a while, thus making conditions rather dry here, and the heavy, strong winds have really kicked up some dust.
So every farmer in Rusty Wallace is hoping it rains.
That's right. As a matter of fact, I believe, that the most recent significant rainfall that they had was at this race in June.
Yeah, and they've had the politicians in the area on local TV here for the last several days, and they're asking for the federal government, as a matter of fact, to declare a number of counties here for
disaster areas.
Drought. Yeah.
Well, the strategy is being talked about down on pit road while the rain falls, and as I said, it has begun to come down quite heavily now. The Folgers team of Mark Martin surveys the situation. I would not be surprised if we didn't have a red flag here before too long, because it appears as if the track, at least here on the main straightaway, is pretty wet. But for the moment, it's only a caution as the pit crew members seek shelter. But Steve Meal and Tony Glover are talking about what's going on the racetrack.
They're trying to figure out exactly, now what can we do to get in front of the 2 car? Now, can we team up on this guy, or?
Well, Tony Glover, the crew chief on the Kodak film Chevrolet of Ernie Irvin, he's going to be the big loser of that team because they were leading the race, came in for their pit stop, and now they're back in 7th position.
Yep. You can see that the rain is falling quite a bit, and the wind is kicking up, and conditions aren't real good right now for racing here at Pocono, and that's the reason why the yellow is out for a rain delay after 175 laps.
Rusty and them, they got to start sweating whether they got enough fuel to go much longer.
Neil just said they're going to stop.
I'm headed up. Tim Brewer is the mechanic of the race, Western Auto mechanic of the race. Okay.
Did you say they're going to stop them, Neil?
They're going to stop them next lap. They're going to allow 2 men and a generator only to the car. So I'm going to head up and get Brewer right quick while they get these cars stopped.
I tell you, Rusty and them's got to be glad of that, because they can't go much farther on fuel.
Well, they can go to 182. My car just told me they could, well, under caution.
Oh.
If it had gone green, then it had to stop by 177. But they can go 182 under the caution. But then as soon as they restart them, they're going to have to get it. They're going to have to get on pit road for fuel. I'm on my way up to get Brewer.
Hey, Neil, get a shot of the 28. Look at the 28 pit down there. Is that thinking or what?
Yeah.
I had never.
Several of them.
Yeah, they did that here in June.
That's keeping their pit dry just in case they have to make another pit stop. Rusty's.
It's raining at Pocono International Raceway, interrupting our Miller Genuine Draft 500, and Davey Allison's crew is among many that are bringing out the tarps and putting it down in their pit area so as to keep that area dry from the rain that's falling. And so when things go back to racing, they will have a nice dry pit area. You can see many of the teams employing the same strategy.
That is very, very intelligent. I have never seen that before.
There's Jack Roush and Steve Meal as they talk over the situation regarding their driver, Mark Martin, who right now is in 2nd position as the field will come down this time and receive the red flag, putting a halt to this race.
That's
Rusty Wallace is leading. Mark Martin is second. Jeff Bodine third. Hut Strickland is fourth. Sterling Marlin fifth. Dale Jarrett sixth. Ernie Irvin seventh. Brett Bodine is eighth. And Chad Little is ninth. And that is the only 9 cars on the lead lap. Bill Elliott lost a lap on his pit stop. He's in 10th place.
And to make it very clear that just because the field is receiving the red flag from Doyle Ford and stopping this race, it doesn't mean that it's over. NASCAR will make every attempt to get the track dry and to complete the last 25 laps of this race. But if, of course, they see that they cannot do that before darkness comes in, then the race can be declared an official event at this point because it is past the halfway point. Let's go to Jerry Punch, who is with the man who's been named the Western Auto Mechanic of the race.
And rightfully so. Tim Brewer here in the Budweiser pit talking to his driver, Jeff Bodine, as he came by. And Timmy, congratulations on being named Western Auto Mechanic of the race. It's certainly an outstanding effort by the whole team, but your leadership.
Well, you know, Jerry, we'd like to thank the Western Auto people. You know, it's a real distinguished award. You know, we're proud to be back with a Budweiser car. And, you know, right now, the award's nice, but we'd like to be sitting atop that leaderboard for the win. You know, we're the defending champions here at the Miller 500. And, you know, with a Budweiser car, we'd just like to have a little bit of that money to put some ice on our beer, you know. But, you know, the Budweiser Ford and Jeff Bodine, they've done a great job for us today. So we'll just have to see how Mother Nature lets us run the rest of this thing, or we just go home in 3rd place.
Now, obviously, you want to see this race restarted. How are you sitting for fuel right now? You know, both the 6 and 2 car are going to have to come in within the next 7 or 8 laps. How about you guys?
Well, you know, we're in the same boat. We need just a little bit of fuel. We thought by the cars coming in changing 4 tires, we'd come in and get a splash of fuel and hopefully beat them to the line. But now, you know, all that strategy kind of went out the window. You're sitting here betting that you can beat them. It's going to be a crapshoot. I mean, you just go out there and do the best you can. And, you know, Jeff, he'll just drive the thing in there. If it sticks, he'll stand in the gas. If not, well, we came to win, so, you know, we're not looking for any points. So, you know, that's the way it'll go.
One of the best poker players I know, Tim Brewer, the Western Auto Mechanic of the race. He and the crew will go down and get with their driver, Jeff Bodine, as they have pulled those cars down on the pit road. And John Curtin has been able to catch up with Rusty Wallace. John?
Rusty just pulled the Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac onto pit road. You're in a good position. You're leading the race. You got a pit stop still to make, but I feel a little deja vu here. The first race you won this year was after a rain delay, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was. I tell you, we've got, man, we got a new motor in this thing, and it's got so much power, it's unreal. It's just, it feels so good because before I was dodging, trying to get out of the way, and now I'm just looking for a place to pass them. Boy, the guys back at the engine shop and everybody back at Penske Race is doing a killer job because, you know, if I can get in, if we do start back up and we get 4 tires, I still think I can win a race. My car's a little better than Ernie's. Just gonna have to drive hard, and it's running really good right now. So I'm hoping it's raining, but I kind of like to be in fair and square too.
So it doesn't do that much to your to Rusty's. Apparently his strategy, he's still going to have to come in and get 4 tires and get some fuel to finish out the race. Right now he's sitting at the front of the grid, and they're getting ready to cover up his car. And you know what, guys? It stopped raining right down here.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's raining quite as hard here where we are. And as a matter of fact, the sky looks a little brighter, too, as we look over toward turn number 2. But for the moment, the track is damp, and it has brought to a halt the running of this 500-mile race here at Pocono. Okay.
We still need to plug our motorhome.
Fleetwood.
Yep.
Okay.
We need to plug Fleetwood.
Sorry about that, Jack.
Fleetwood motorhomes. We need to do that.
No, it isn't. The safety vehicles have moved on to the 2.5-mile tri-oval known as Pocono International Raceway to expedite the drying of this facility. It isn't very wet, just a little damp, and it shouldn't be very much longer before we can get this race back underway if it doesn't rain anymore.
And every one of those drivers in those safety vehicles is daydreaming about being Rusty Wallace and driving around this Pocono International Raceway. They're doing it at 50 miles an hour, but there's no doubt in their mind if they was in that Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac, they too could be sitting there hoping it was going to rain.
Well, Jerry Punch a few minutes ago talked with the Western Auto mechanic of the race, Tim Brewer, who is the crew chief on Junior Johnson's number 11, driven by Jeff Bodine. Jerry had a chance earlier to take a closer look and a closer visit with Tim Brewer.
Tim Brewer's calmed down a lot in the last 5 years. He used to be pretty headstrong, hard-headed. He didn't know anybody, anything. But that's not the way to go through life. You know, you go through life and you try to help people. And he's learning that and trying to be a better person.
Tim Brewer's family has definitely seen a difference in him. But now in his 19th season, one thing has not changed. From his early days with Richard Childress to his present times with Junior Johnson, Brewer has had a fierce desire to win, a desire that has become an integral part of his personality.
Tim was real aggressive, and even today, you know, he's still got that want-to-win attitude. Even when we knew the odds was against us, he and I both thought we could go out and win races. And I think that's what puts Tim Brewer apart from a lot of people today, is that anytime he goes to a racetrack, he thinks he can win.
We came up, you know, Childress and myself, when a dollar was a dollar, and you had to get $1.50 worth for that dollar. So that's helped us over the years as far as knowing what you're looking for, knowing how to take a shortcut, and still yet getting the most for your money. So it's just one of those situations. We came up on the poor side of town, I mean literally. And you know, it's two ways to survive on the poor side of town. You either get tough or die.
Having to earn his success, Brewer's exposure to Junior Johnson has allowed him to develop some tough philosophies he uses to get him through each race day.
You know, there's one on the side of my toolbox that says, you show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. You know, I'm not going to congratulate anybody for kicking my butt and taking money out of my pocket at what I do for a living. As far as going in and psyching somebody out, my approach would be there, if you think you can't, you're probably right. So, you know, you got that guy beat going in. Nobody has ever set anybody down at Junior Johnson and explained the definition of quit to them, because we don't know how to quit. We're not going to quit.
The combination of success on the track and a happy family has made Brewer a very proud man, someone who has learned to appreciate the gifts of life.
I'm one of the most fortunate people in the world. I work, I eat, I sleep, and my hobby is racing. And I get the hobby all the time. You know, sometimes it's just not as enjoyable as other times. But when I come home, I have to work for Susan. It's mow the grass, vacuum the pool, you know, put the chemicals in the pool, you know, plant the flowers. But it's not too bad neither. I told Susan, I said, if I die here before I'm 40, I said, just put on my tombstone, wasn't here for a long time, but sure had a good time.
Tim Brewer, the crew chief on the number 11 Budweiser Ford, driven by Jeff Bodine, who today has been named Western Auto Mechanic of the Race. Jeff Bodine is third, Mark Martin second. The leader is Rusty Wallace as we are under a rain delay here at Pocono International Raceway. Bingo. Is this a coverall? No racing on the track. The activity is confined to pit road at this moment as the rain continues to fall. As a matter of fact, it picked up a little bit and had quite a squall in the last few minutes. So the track drying procedures are underway. Let's go to John Kernan.
Well, Bill, you won last time we were here on ESPN with the race, and something happened just as you having a pretty good run on the lead lap, and then you pitted right before the caution came out here in the red flag, so it put you a lap down. Can you still make that back up if this race gets restarted?
Well, maybe. You know, Rusty still wants to come in, and we can stay out, so that's going to give us a little bit of advantage being at the front of the pack, but still it's going to be hard to keep them guys a lap down, and you got to guarantee another caution is going to come out, which, you know, there's already a lot happening, and I don't foresee another one coming out, but you know, we'll just do the best we can. We've had a pretty good day. We've avoided a lot of the stuff that's went on so far, and we had a flat tire, you know, later on in the race that's really put us behind and really hadn't got us caught back up good yet.
You know, a lot of times on these broadcasts this year, it seems like we get a lot of rain, and I'm always having to play weatherman. Now, Bill is a pilot, so he has to deal with the weather and filing flight plans. Can you look at the clouds and give me any type of estimate how long this is going to stay?
I have no idea. Like that saying goes, it's going to be hot or cold depending on the weather. It looks like it's going to rain or not depending on the weather.
Spoken like a true weatherman, I think. Let's go up pit road to Jerry Punch.
Now here, Ernie Irvin thinks that it's not raining at all, but you got to remember, Ernie Irvin has already been on pit road and gotten 4 tires and a tank of fuel, so he wants it to quit raining so you can get back in racing. Now you're sitting in pretty good shape if the rain goes away.
Yeah, you know, I've been sitting there watching it. The wind's blowing hard, and you know, I don't think there's no problem with it quit raining as long as we get the track dry, and we're sitting in a good shot because we got all of our fuel in. We got 4 brand new tires, and everybody else has to pit.
Now, what's the deal here? You came in once, just a pit stop ago, awfully early. Did someone's batteries in the calculator fail? Or I understand you had a light flickering there on the dash?
No, we have a fuel light and a fuel pressure gauge, and you know, we just didn't want to push it till it run out of gas because we could burn a piston. So, you know, we just worried about getting in and getting our fuel, and we'd have to make 2 stops anyway. So, wanted to get it done with, and if we could get out before them, then we can run a second of a lap faster for 5 or 10 laps before they pit. So, it gives us a good advantage.
Now, Rusty Wallace and you apparently have the 2 stronger cars here most of the afternoon. Rusty came by a minute ago and was picking at you, sort of busting your chops a little bit, said, now this is a repeat of Bristol, except now you've got the fresh tires.
Yeah, it sure is. You know, we had a rain delay there. Davey was leading. I was running second. Rusty was with 4 brand new tires, and ended up him winning the race, me running second. We hope it don't end up that way this time.
Predictions on the weather?
It's going to blow over here.
Okay, Ernie Irvin wants us to get back to green flag racing. Let's check in where John Kernan is standing by with Joe Ruttman.
Jerry, I tell you what, I feel like I'm being hit by pellets down here. The drops have just increased in size. It's starting to rain fairly hard. And we're with Joe, and we'd mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Joe, that you'd hurt your back at Daytona in that crash that you were involved with Darrell Waltrip. How's that feeling now?
Well, fortunately, it's been coming around, and I was a little concerned, you know, when I hit that road, when we went off the track. I'm sure Darrell took a far more exciting run than I did, but, you know, when that baby took off, you know, it jammed my back, and fortunately, though, so we had a week off, and I think that's kind of what saved me. So, and the boys have been working flat out trying to get our Speedway program ready for Talladega, because we know that if we get it running that good, we got a chance to win one of these races, and that's what it's all about. So that's what we're really looking forward to.
How long, you know, when you're with a team and you're new with them and you've been out of the circuit for a while and you come back in, how long does it take to get the feel back in it and the feel that you can go out there and be competitive? I mean, you started off the year great at Daytona.
Well, I truly think it's not us getting together. It's a matter of we made a transition from rear steer cars to front steer cars, and we're just getting acquainted with the front steer cars, and we've been running a bit better than what our finishes has indicated in some of the other races, but we're still not satisfied with how we're running. The answer to the question, it better not be too long, because this season could be over and I could be out of a job again. So I want Dinner Bill to hang with me in Food Lion and Butch and Bob and say, hey, maybe he can do the job. And I think we're coming around and doing a bit better.
Joe Ruttman, who is sitting now in line, 4th place, but a little bit further down on the grid from there, has had some good runs this year and also had some heartache, but he's managed to keep a smile throughout it all.
Joe Ruttman waits with the others for the weather to clear, but right now it is raining pretty hard. In fact, it could almost be described as pouring down rain here on the front stretch at Pocono. Back after these messages.
What's going to happen with Bodine, who's sitting on pit? What will they do in that case?
All right, sir. It's a good idea.
Is that 5 car not out of gas? Didn't Shredder push him?
Yeah, he pushed him. Yeah.
Sure did.
What happens? Can he back up?
No.
Nope.
Well, how does he go? What do they do?
Okay.
That's a good idea.
We still need to give a plug to that motorhome.
Yep.
I know we don't have much time, but
we may have a lot of time here. There's the
I could say that I got me a blueberry pie waiting for me down in our Fleetwood motorhome.
Oh, man. I hope it doesn't end up on the top of your head. Downright nasty, isn't it? The billboards. Oh, sorry. Rain continues to fall at Pocono International Raceway, interrupting our Miller Genuine Draft 500 with 176 laps completed, 24 to be run. Rusty Wallace is the leader of the race at this point, and now it becomes a question of whether or not they will be able to get this race restarted, because a lot of moisture has fallen in the last 15 minutes.
You know what's wrong with this whole deal?
Well, a lot, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the whole biggest problem with it is that, you know, the Fleetwood motorhome people furnished us with a motorhome this weekend, and one of the executives, Wise, baked me a blueberry pie. And it's waiting on me, and
down there
this race is supposed to be over in about 5 minutes, and I was...
Benny can't get to it. It's about 300 yards down there in the rain.
Well, it probably end up on the top of his head anyway. John Kernan is with Chad Little.
Hey, we're getting soaked down here, Bob. Chad, you'd moved all the way up into 3rd position earlier today, and I understand Harry told you it was to get some TV time and a little something else.
Yeah, we've got that Sly Fox Harry Hyde with us now, and I guess he understands more of the angles than we do, and he wanted us to stay out there and pit, and he was on the same idea as Schrader was, because I noticed Schrader stayed out as long as we did, and it worked out good. He got me up in front, and we stayed out of some of those wrecks, and that really helped a lot. And I'm real happy with the way the car's going. We're a little tight right now, and it's messing with me coming out of 1 and up out of 3. But other than that, you know, the car feels pretty good, and the Tyson Bullseye Ford, it's been a pretty good day.
Now, Harry's been with you a week. Have you been able to learn much from him in that time?
Yeah, you know, he talks a lot on the radio, more than anybody I'm ever used to, and that's good. He keeps me calm and tells jokes during the cautions, and it's just it's a pleasure to have him with. It gives you a lot more confidence, and this is probably, you know, I have a worse time in Pocono than most any other track, and the car feels really comfortable today, so I'm happy with it.
Well, he's sitting in 12th position right now, Chad Little, and we're getting soaked down here right now. Jerry, where are you?
Well, John, I think that's the fact that I was able to find an umbrella up here out of the courtesy of someone's heart. They took pity on me, and we found Hut Strickland as well. And Hut, I just spoke with Ernie Irvin, and as far as he's concerned, it's just barely a drizzle here, although it's what we call a frog choker back in North Carolina. This rain's coming down pretty hard. Now, you would like to see this thing go ahead and end the way it is because you need to pit.
Well, we really would, but, you know, I think if there's a chance comes up that we do get the race restarted, then we got a couple more adjustments I feel like we can make, and, you know, maybe we can move on up just a little bit. And, you know, we're not going to be terribly disappointed if it rains it out, but we'll, you know, work on it and get a little bit better.
But Bobby Allison on team has really come together. I mean, since the mid portion of the first part of the year, the 2nd place finish at Michigan, you guys were awfully strong. You run well in the super speedways. And then once again here at Pocono, you were one of the strongest and are one of the strongest cars in the field.
Well, you know, I tell you, I just have to give all the credit to all the guys that work on this Robustus Brakes Tic Tac Buick here. You know, they just, you know, they give it their all, and they, you know, do anything I want to do to the car, and that's really what it's all about.
Hut Strickland, one of the members of the Alabama gang, sort of hoping that the water continues, but then again, maybe not, because he could possibly win it. Bob?
Right now, he is in 4th position. Hut Strickland. And you can see the fans beginning to find their way toward their cars, as many believe that this race will not be resumed. As we look back over the wooded area off the racetrack, we can see the rain falling over there too. Let's take a look at the way they're running at the red flag mark of 176 laps. Rusty, of course, leading Mark, Jeff, Hutt, and Sterling. 6 through 10, Dale Jarrett. Ernie Irvin 7th, just made a pit stop. Brett Bodine is 8th, and Bill Elliott and Joe Ruttman, who we heard from just a few minutes ago. Then we take a look at Bobby Hamilton. Chad Little running in 12th position. Ted Musgrave, Davey Hamilton, and Terry Lamonti round out the top 15.
Davey Hamilton, Davey Allison, you mean. There's Alan Kowicki, 16th. Greg Sachs, Dave Marcus, Ricky Rudd, and Irv Hare in 20th spot. 21st, Jimmy Means, the Alka-Seltzer Pontiac. Dale Earnhardt, 22nd. Schrader, after breaking an A-frame, 23rd. Rick Wilson, 24th. And J.D. McDuffie is now 25th.
He's moving right up in the field. Harry Gant, of course, is in the garage area now, so he'll be shown in 26th position. Rick Master in the garage area as well at 27th. Bobby Hillen, 28th. Darrell Waltrip will get credit for 29th if it stops here. Lake Speed, 30th. He, too, is in the garage area. 40 cars started this race. Richard Petty, 31st. John Paul Jr., Gary Wright, Morgan Shepherd, and Dick Trickle. All of those cars in the garage area now.
And then the final 5, Derek Cope, Jimmy Spencer, Michael Waltrip, Bill Venturini, and Gary Ballou. Those cars, of course, have been out of the race for quite some time. 176 laps completed. It continues to absolutely pour down rain here at the racetrack. Back after these messages. Okay. All right, sir. Hi, John, back in the Bristol headquarters, if you're listening. Haven't, oh, John, you're at home. Come on, we'll get to the office.
Is he on satellite?
Okay.
Well, heck with you, John.
Yeah. That's the case.
It was interesting when they interviewed the Tony Glover, and he said that they were faster than the 2-car, and then interviewed Rusty, and he said, well, we're a little bit stronger than he is. Well, that's good. They got to think that way.
Yeah.
The Miller Genuine Draft 500 here at Pocono International Raceway in northeastern Pennsylvania is under a rain delay. We have completed 176 laps of this race, and at the moment, Rusty Wallace is the leader. Our Speed World coverage is being brought to you this afternoon by GMC Trucks. It's not just a truck anymore, it's quality on the road. By Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Budweiser, the king of beers with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud. Cherry Punch is with Alan Kowicki as both of them try to dodge the raindrops.
Indeed, Bob. We happen to be underneath the Hooters hood here at the back of his truck. And certainly that would be nice as well to have an afternoon here with something good to eat from Hooters. But Alan, second pole of the year, the car ran awfully well early in the race, and then you happen to be caught in that melee up in turn 3. What happened? What did you see up there?
Some cars, I mean, there was a whole pack of cars, and a couple cars got together. Someone started spinning. I think it was Hut Strickland, and I don't know. I saw Richard Petty's car look like it got really airborne, and I almost went down pit road. I thought I had it cleared, and there was a car there, and there was a wide open spot on the track. I went for it, and out of nowhere, Darrell Waltrip came spinning in front of me, and we got the front end tore up on the Hooters Ford, and that's too bad. I mean, the car ran great. The guys in the crew did a good job, and you know, I think we had a legitimate shot to win this race. I think Schrader and I were probably the two best cars out there at that point.
Now, are you going to have to pit? I understand you're sitting 16th right now, 2 laps down. Still could get a pretty good finish out, I guess, if you can get back to green.
Well, we'll probably have one more pit stop for gas only if it ever gets green, though. It doesn't look too good right now.
Not very optimistic right now from our position here in the pits. Very, very overcast, still raining, but anything can happen here because it's Pocono, and certainly we like to get some more racing on the air. Bob?
Yeah, you remember last time we were here and it rained so hard, it looked as if we were going to have to call it a day early, but then the sun came out and the track dried very quickly, so that could be what we're looking at here later this afternoon, although again there has been a lot of moisture fall in the front stretch, and all the way around this racetrack is very damp. The trucks have stopped. They are no longer on the racetrack trying to keep it dry, so it's just a matter now of waiting out the rain and seeing if we can get this thing back underway.
Yeah, those trucks were losing ground out there. Really,
yeah,
they're trying to dry the track. It was getting wetter by the minute, as you have said several times. The rain was really pouring down, although it seems to have slacked off a little bit right now, but the racetrack is very, very wet.
Yeah, at least we can see the second turn now. A few minutes ago, we couldn't even see over there. It was raining so hard, but it does continue to rain a little bit. Well, Jerry now has hooked up with Dale Jarrett, who's having a good run here today, right now running in 6th position.
Well, indeed he is, and we almost changed the rating on this show. Dale quickly got his uniform slipped back up his waist here, and we might have had some real cable television here. Dale, first of all, congratulations on what has been a real good run for you so far.
Well, thanks. We've struggled with the Citgo Ford. We're getting beat down the straightaway a little today, but the car's driving awfully good. I tell you, and Eddie has really put a setup under the car that really lets me get through the corners, and we're doing a lot of shifting out there. That's something new for Pocono here with us and for me, but it's working well in that respect. But, you know, 6 is about as good as we could do. We fell way behind earlier in the race, and we blew up our engine yesterday afternoon in practice, the very last thing. We didn't get a chance to tune this one in, and it's made a little bit of difference. But, you know, we'd probably be happy with 6th right now. I know the fans would like to see these last 24 laps, but the way things have gone today, we'll put the Citgo Ford in 6th and put it back in the truck.
Now, you've had a couple of close calls. Early in the race, you spun out of turn 4, managed to keep the car out of the wall. What happened then?
Well, we'd gotten the car adjusted, and I was trying to come back up through, and Greg Sachs slid up a little bit, and I thought I had enough room to get between